Welcome to Love in Life, a guide to a positive mindset. My aim is to show you that the key to a happier and more positive mind is to love the life you have. We will look at tips and tools you can use to improve your mindset, and the best thing is, we'll all be on this journey together. Hiya! Oh my God, can you believe it's the 30th of November? I cannot. The one thing I'll say about since I've been doing this podcast, I've found that the weeks just go so fast. By the time I've recorded on a Tuesday, it goes out on a Wednesday, a few more days go by, and then before I know it, it's Tuesday again. I cannot believe it's basically nearly Christmas already. And what have I done for Christmas? Fuck all. I've bought no presents at all. I really, really need to get cracking. So that is my aim for this next week. My aim for last week was, after seeing my coach last week, I said that I set myself a goal of launching my membership, my morning membership, within the next week, which I have done. So if you have heard about it, if you listened last week, or if you've seen it on my Instagram and you're interested, then please head to the link in my show notes and you can find out more information on it. But I'm so excited for this. So if you are the kind of person that you can see the benefits of getting up early in the morning and setting yourself an early morning routine, but you can't quite bring yourself to committing to it and getting up early, and you feel like you need a little bit of support and accountability, knowing that somebody else is doing exactly the same, then this is for you. So I'm going to be there to guide you through, to give you tips. I've got videos uploaded already. I've got a workbook which you can print off and use, or you can just use it as a guide, whatever you choose to do. But this is going to, honestly, if you're anything like me, this is going to change your life. And honestly, like, the things that have changed for me since I've been getting up early, it's been crazy. So as you know, I've been on a self-development journey, and it all started with me getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm not saying you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You absolutely don't. But it all started with me setting a time that I was going to get up before everybody else, work on myself. And it's led from one thing to another, to me discovering more and more about myself. And this is the thing. It's not just something that you will see the benefits in a month or in 2 months, whatever. This is something that you have to form a habit and you have to keep doing, because it's taken for me to do this for the last two years and what is it now, like 3 months. And I've gone from having a cake business, which saw me working so many hours, not seeing my family, traveling on the weekends and missing out on family time on the weekends, and not really earning that much money for it, if I'm honest, to deciding to embark upon this journey that I'm on, which is coaching. And obviously this is where the podcast has come from. I've embarked upon a life coaching course, which I've completed now, by the way, and I passed it with a distinction. So I am now a fully certified life coach. So I've got more news coming about that within the next few weeks or so. But my thing for now is this morning membership, which is called the Good Morning Club. I mean, what else could I have called it? So yeah, that has been my week. I've been working really hard to get that up and running. I am so proud of myself that I've done it. So if you're interested in joining me, then please do take a look. And if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I'm here. Ask me any questions you've got. What have you achieved in the last week? Because it's so good to take a look back and reflect on the day before us, the week before us, the month before us, before where we are now, and just see what you've achieved, because sometimes we forget what we've achieved. Sometimes you need to take a look back and think, oh my God, yeah, I did this, this and this. And sometimes when you feel like you haven't achieved anything, or when you feel overwhelmed about things, and you actually stop and take a few minutes to write down what you've done and reflect on what you've done, you actually realise that you've done way more than you thought. So maybe do that if you're struggling to see what you've achieved in the last week, month, whatever, year even. Right, enough about that. From last week's episode, I have to say I had such lovely feedback from all the questions that I answered. And I don't know if you remember me saying, but there was one question at the end which I was considering answering at the end of last week's episode, but I decided not to because I feel like that deserves a whole episode in itself. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today. And the question that was asked is, how do you restore faith in the law of attraction when shit things happen? Now, if I'm honest, this is one of those questions where I just want to say, you just have to. But obviously I can't, because that's really not very helpful. So one thing I am going to say, or one thing I'm going to ask you to do actually, before I give you an example, is, I'm going to sneeze, hang on. Oh, I had to pause that there because you do not want to hear me sneezing. We've all got like colds going around at the moment. It's that time of year. But yeah, one thing I want you to do is think about something shit that happened, like, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 years ago, at least. So it could be more than that. It could be 5 or 10 years ago. But think of something shit that happened. So if you need a little bit of time, pause this and have a think about something. And when you've got something, come back and listen. Okay, so if you've got something, then what I want you to do is think about all the good things that have come from that since. So, and the reason why I asked you to think of something that was like a couple of years ago is because it's not always obvious what good things come from shit situations straight away. It might take a couple of years for it to be obvious. Sometimes you need to make a point of thinking about it so as it is obvious, because it's not always obvious unless you actually intentionally think about it. So these shit things that happen to us, let's just question, how shit are they really? Like, they might feel shit at the time, but if you consider that every shit thing that happens, I feel like I'm saying shit an awful lot in this episode, but the question had shit in it, so yeah, sorry about that. All these shit things that happen, if you truly look hard enough, then I would say 9 times out of 10, you will usually be able to find something good that's come from it. I mean, sometimes depending on what kind of mindset you've got, if you haven't got a very positive mindset, then, you know, there will be certain people out there that can't find good things that come from shit things, whatever you say to them. So, but I'm guessing that if you're listening to this podcast, then you either already have a fairly positive mindset or you're looking to improve your positivity. So if you can't think of anything, any of your own situations where something good has come out of something shit, then I just want to tell you an example of something. I mean, there's many things that I can think of, but obviously the one that springs to mind for me is the one that's happened most recently. And I actually think this is probably one of the most prominent turning points in my life. And you all know that I broke my hand. If you've listened to all my episodes, then you probably know how I broke my hand, because I'm pretty sure I've said how I broke my hand. If not, let me know and I will tell you. But I'm not going to go into that today because that's irrelevant. What I do want to tell you is all the events that followed it. So in March, I broke my hand. And the day I broke my hand, I was told that I would probably need an operation on it. So I was given an appointment for the following day with the plastics team in the hand centre, who decided that I didn't. And now that is a bit of a different story, but it did add up to some of the events that followed on after. So obviously my hand was in a cast. It was in cast for 4 weeks, and my cast came off in April, and it turned out that my hand didn't like being in a cast, and I developed something that's called CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. And basically it has caused my finger to be stiff, like still now, like 9 months later or whatever it is, it's still stiff and crooked and bent. And I actually saw a private doctor a week after who said if I would have come to him immediately after I'd broken my hand, or the days after I broke my hand, he would have operated on it, especially given my job, which is obviously working with my hands, making wedding cakes. But obviously I hadn't gone to see him, and it was too late. So then obviously when my cast came off and I developed this syndrome, then a month later, so that was in April, in May, my fingernail started getting infected all the time. And over again, I kept having antibiotics for it. And then when that stopped, my nail started dying off. So it was like one thing after another. And I finally realised that this is the universe answering my question. So a lot of last year, I was contemplating not doing this for a job anymore because I was so sad about losing out on so much family time on the weekends from delivering wedding cakes. It was making me question if my heart was in it anymore. So it didn't actually take me long to realise that. And as soon as I did, I decided I was just going to complete the wedding cakes I already had booked in for the rest of this year, and I wasn't going to take on any more orders. So when I decided to stop taking on wedding cake orders, I saw it as an opportunity to do something that didn't involve my hands, but something that had been sort of on my mind for about 6 months beforehand. And that was when in June I set up my podcast. And then in September, that was going, my podcast is going well. I was really enjoying it. In September, I thought, why not do a life coaching course? Because that can only help with whatever I decide to pursue from this. Then in November, I completed my life coaching course, and I'm now a certified life coach, although I do have a different title for my my new role, which I will announce to you when the time is ready, when the time is right. So, all of that stuff wouldn't have happened if I didn't break my hand. And actually, even if I was to have had the operation that the private doctor said I should have had, I would have got the use of my hand back a lot quicker, according to him. So if that happened, then I maybe wouldn't have made all these decisions. So it just goes to show that sometimes one shit thing happens, then another shit thing happens, then another. And it's like these things are all meant to happen for a reason until you make the decision that you're destined for. So the reason why I asked you to think of your own example of something that felt like shit when it happened to you, but then something good came out of it, is because next time something shit happens, that is your faith. If you remember those things that happened, they didn't feel like shit forever. You soon realize that something good was going to come out of it. Like, yes, it still felt shit. It doesn't make it any less shit. But if something good comes out of it, then is that not the reason for it happening? And it kind of makes the shit feel easier. Does that make sense? So that was why I wanted you to have something in mind, because that is how we keep the faith. You have to remember those things, those situations, to be able to be patient when shit things happen, and wait for, if it isn't obvious at the time straight away, then wait and see what the reason is, what the good thing that's going to happen is. Because some of the greatest things, I believe, some of the greatest things that happen in our lives happen off the back of something shit that happens. And a really good example of this is the story of Hal Elrod. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about him before in my podcast, but if not, then I'll just tell you quickly his story. But he basically, at the age of 15, it was either 15 or 20. Anyway, he was young. And he got hit by a drink driver who was driving at like 70 miles an hour. And he was found medically dead. And he was dead for about 6 minutes. And obviously when they managed to bring him back to life, I don't know, obviously that was an absolute miracle. But he was told he'd never walk again, but he refused to believe that that was the case. He had faith that he would walk again. So not only did he walk again, but he became a hugely successful success coach, and, you know, very good reason to do so. And also he's become one of America's best-selling authors as well in self-development books. So this really shit situation led him to some of the greatest things, like more greater things that he could ever have imagined, I expect. But if he would have looked at it as, you know, this was his destiny, this was just what was happening to him, accepting the fact that he was never going to walk again, then he probably never would have walked again. But the fact that he managed to divert his concentration and his thoughts onto something else, walking again, and, you know, being grateful for being given a second chance, he was given the opportunity to do all those things. So, you know, when people have accidents, when people have bad things happening to them, they don't just miraculously get better by their own. That only happened because of his mindset, because he refused to believe that he was a victim. He's obviously a massive inspiration to me, if you hadn't guessed. He is the author of Miracle Morning. So if you haven't read that, then I do highly recommend it. Or you could just join my morning membership, obviously. I do use a lot of his methods that I've learned from his book in my morning routine. So, yeah, good on you, Hal. Some of the greatest things that have happened to him happened because of what he learned about himself from that really shit situation. So, you know, that is how you keep the faith, by reminding yourself that this tiny little part in your story is just that. It's just a tiny part. And when you, in years to come, stand back and see the bigger picture, it won't feel so shit. And if you think back of past experiences, then this is what you use to remind yourself of that. And the chances are you probably won't see the reason why the shit thing has happened to you at the time. You just have to have patience, and you just have to have faith. Don't be a victim in your story. Just wait for time to pass, and you will soon see the reason. You will soon have, you know, I'm a big believer that when one door closes, another one opens. Not just 1, 2, 3, 4, you know. Doors close for a reason, and that's to allow others to open. And I think it also helps to bear in mind your main goal or your main desire, or to make sure you have one some people don't have goals and desires. But I think if you have goals and desires, then that gives you something to have faith in as well. Like with Hal, he focused on the fact that he was going to walk again. Like that was the only thing that he thought about. And with me, whilst it was a completely different situation, obviously, but with me, I just kept telling myself that whole time, which was mentally and physically testing on me, I just kept telling myself, I know that the universe has a plan for me. I know that there's a reason for this and something is going to come from it. And it is funny how last week on Tuesday when I recorded, I decided not to answer the question how to restore faith in the law of attraction when shit things happen. So that was last Tuesday that I recorded it. And then on Thursday, I started reading a new book that talks a lot about faith. And it's just so strange how I decided not to answer that. I may have a better answer to that this week than I would have last week. So that's brilliant. Now, the book I'm reading talks about having faith in something that you desire. And it says that faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instruction to the subconscious mind through principle of auto-suggestion. So what that is basically saying is that we can repeat things over and over again to trick ourselves that we believe it, and that's what creates faith if you don't already have it or if you're losing faith. So if faith is a state of mind, and we can put ourselves in this state of mind by repeatedly telling ourselves affirmations or stories which we eventually end up believing if we tell it often enough. Think how this can work for you or against you, depending on what stories you tell yourself. So sometimes it's really important to remember how your thoughts, positive or negative, have a massive, massive effect on your outcome and your experiences. And finally, something that I think is a huge point to make actually is thinking back to the episodes where I've talked about the universal laws. The first two in particular, so the law of divine oneness and the law of vibration. So let's just remember that the law of divine oneness, we are all connected. We are connected to everything. We're connected to the universe. We are always co-creating with the universe. So the law of attraction is the universe. It's you. Does that make sense? You know, because we're co-creating and we're all one, the universe is responding to your vibration. So if at some point, which you're bound to have been at some point, we all have been on a low vibration, then at some point that will catch up with you. And there's nothing you can really do about that apart from be aware of your vibration in the future. So then when shit things do happen to you, how you respond to them is so, so important, because if you respond in a way that shows, I don't know, a lack of gratitude or a victim mentality, which we are all capable of and we've all done, you know, don't get me wrong, we've all done it. But if that's your natural reaction when something shit happens, then that is what the universe is going to pick up on. So if you can gradually change your mindset to a more open-minded one, which is a much higher vibration, then naturally your frequency, your own vibration is going to be higher, and it's going to attract the more desirable things. But you do have to have the faith and the belief that you can attract these things. So I hope that helps. I hope you learn to have faith in yourself, in your abilities, in your desires, and have faith that you can achieve them and that they will become reality. You will manifest them. And then so when shit things happen, just focus on the bigger picture, whatever that bigger picture is, whatever that end goal is for you. If anything I have said has resonated with you this week, then please do let me know. You can do this by sending me a message, either directly or on Instagram, which you will find the link to do both of those in my show notes. You can also, obviously, leave a review, which I would love you to do. Obviously, if you can do that on Apple Podcasts, then that would be amazing. I have still lost those reviews that I had. I don't know where they've gone, but I did have some and now I haven't. So I'm really upset about that. If I could replace them, that would be amazing. So if anyone fancies doing that for me, I'll love you forever. But yeah, if anything resonates with you, then please do let me know. Because it's so nice hearing from people when I've made them have a light bulb moment, or when I've made you have an epiphany. I love hearing that. That is what makes me love doing my job. So please do let me know. If you want to get a head start on the new year and start forming a habit of creating your morning routine, then why not have a look at my membership? Excuse me. If you can get into that habit before January starts, so as then when January does start, you're already on a roll, then, you're giving yourself an amazing head start. Enjoy the first week of December. Enjoy putting your Christmas decorations up. That's what I'm going to be doing this weekend, and I expect a lot of people will be. And I'll speak to you next week. But in the meantime, reflect on what you have achieved over the last week. Like I said at the beginning, write things down, because it's amazing how much you achieve in 1 week and actually forget. So write it all down and reflect on how much you've achieved. I'll speak to you soon, guys. Bye.